Good. So those of you who actually have been reading, you should have read now through page 64. Okay? I want you to go ahead and start reading the next set, which starts with chapter 15. I haven't been able to make the copies, though, because the copy machine's down. Hopefully I'll have those for you tomorrow. All right, so do you find that it's getting a little bit easier?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Like,
you have to reread stuff a lot.
You do have to reread things, absolutely. But, if you kind of try to keep in your head who the characters are and what they're doing, it really does help. Okay, so Tull is Vernon Tull. Okay? So on your character sheet, he's on the back. He goes by Tull, but his name is Vernon. And he is married to Cora. And he is a neighbor. Vernon. And he is a neighbor to the Bundrins.
Does he play a big role at all?
All of the characters collectively, I feel, play a big role. If it's hard to pick a protagonist, like a traditional protagonist, like you would in another book, because they're all contributing to the story almost in an equal way, except Darl, I think, if you had to pick a protagonist, it would be Darl. He has it's not that I like him or dislike him, it's that he has the most to say out of anybody. So that's probably why I would pick him. I do probably like him the best. Some of the other characters are pretty despicable. So, in his own way, I like Jewel. So, all right. So, in this Vernon Tull chapter, our questions are, what promise has Anne's made to Addie regarding her death? What is the promise?
So take her to Jefferson.
Bury her in Jefferson. And how does Vernon feel about helping Anne's? Remember, Anne's is lazy. And he totally relies on, other people.
Are kind of just like hesitant?
Okay. Anyone?
He seems supportive, but no one would want to. But given the circumstances, he's okay with it.
Okay. All right. And we're going to go back and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Let's actually do that now. All right. So they're still talking about it raining. Okay. So they're still talking about the rain. So we can kind of foreshadow in our minds that this is going to end up being an issue, right? The rain is going to end up being an issue. So pay attention to that. Anyway, so he's talking about the rain, talking about how Addie's mind is set on being buried here, all right? And he's saying, he can still hear Cash hammering and sawing, and the boy comes up the hill, he's carrying a fish as long as him, and he slings it to the ground and grunts, ha, and spits over his shoulder like a man. All right, so Vardaman is the boy. He is the youngest child. And he has caught this huge fish. All right. And so then they're going to have kind of a discussion over, this huge fish. All right. And then over here we have a passage that I want you to mark. And it's his wife. And she's talking to him and she says, "Poor Anne's, I say. She kept him at work for 30 odd years. I reckon she is tired. And I reckon she'll be behind him for 30 years more," Kate says. "Or if it ain't her, he'll get another one before cotton pickin'." Get another what? Wife. Okay? So she's tired because she's been keeping him at work. And, you know, when she's gone, they foresee that he'll probably find another wife.
So he won't have to work.
Yeah, or that will keep him going, you know. And I'm looking for that passage. Okay, right here on page 33. So, on my page 33, talking about Vernon helping Ann's. Ann's don't look at us. He looks around, blinking in that surprised way, like he had wore himself down being surprised and was even surprised at that. If Cash just works that careful on my barn. I told Ann's it likely won't be no need, I say, I so hope it. Her mind is set on it, he says. I reckon she's bound to go. So they're talking about burying her. And so Vernon is basically saying, you know, maybe there's no need to worry about that. You know, maybe she'll pull through this. And anyway, it comes to all of us, Cora says. Let the Lord comfort you. About that corn, I say. I tell him again I will help him out if he gets into a tight with her sick and all. Like most folks around here, I done help him so much already, I can't quit now. Okay, so going back to this question, how does Vernon feel about helping Ann's? How does he feel about it?
He feels obligated.
Yeah, he's like, I've done it so much, why stop?
Question.
Yeah.
So, let's say by some miracle she pulls through. Now they have a coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Are they just going to put it in storage and be like, well, she's going to die one day, or are they just going to, like, the next person in the family that dies, if she doesn't die before that, they're just going to put them in that coffin?
Who knows?
You can sell it. Whole coffin!
Okay, so what has Vardaman done at the end of this section?
Was it that when he caught fish?
Yes, he's caught this giant fish. And while this sounds like not that big of a deal, it's a huge deal. And it's not because it's a big fish, but all right, it's because Vardaman is young. He is little. We don't exactly know his age, but like I'm saying he's less than 10. All right, he's the youngest of the family by far. You know, they're talking about how the fish is nearly as big as he is, so you know he can't be that big. All right? And he has killed this fish, and the way he is acting, he's emulating the way that he has seen other men behave. You know, like he's playing like he's bigger than he is, like spitting over his shoulder, you know, and kind of cursing at the fish and such. So this is going to come into play again later, and we're going to talk a lot more about this poor fish. Cool? All right. So chapter 9, Ann's Bundren. What does Ann's blame as the source of many of his troubles, and why does he feel this way? The road. And he has this like whole section that sounds a lot like gibberish, okay? During that road and it fixing to rain too, I can stand here and same as see it with second sight, a shutting down behind them like a wall, shutting down betwixt them and my given promise. I do the best I can, much as I can get my mind on anything, but darn them boys. I lay in there right up to my door, where every bad luck that comes and goes is bound to find it. I told Addie it wasn't any luck living on a road when it come by here, and she says for the world like a woman, get up and move then. But I told her it want no luck in it, because the Lord put roads for traveling. Why, he laid them down flat on the earth. When he aims for something to be always a moving, he makes it long ways, like a road or a horse or a wagon. But when he aims for something to stay put, he makes it up and down ways, like a tree or a man. And so he never aimed for folks to live on a road, because which gets there first, I says, the road or the house? Did you ever know him to set a road down by a house, I says? No, you never, I says. Because it's always men can't rest till they gets the house set where everybody that passes in a wagon can spit in the doorway, keeping the folks restless and wanting to get up and go somewhere else when he aimed for them to stay put like a tree or a stand of corn. Because if he'd aimed for a man to always be a moving and going somewhere else, wouldn't he have put him long ways on his belly like a snake? It stands to reason he would. Okay, so, he has this, weird thought process of, man is upright, man is vertical like a tree, so he's supposed to stay put and not move all around, okay? But the way that he has this road coming right up to his house makes people want to continue moving, all right? So it's almost as if he is insinuating that the road being there is what makes Addie want to leave and be buried in Jefferson, all right? But he believes that man should be firm where he is planted and not move around, which also kind of adds credence to the fact that he is lazy, okay? So it's almost like he is kind of coming up with a reason to be lazy, all right? And he feels this way, and I'm just going to say the whole horizontal and vertical talk. The whole horizontal and vertical talk. All right, so looking back through this chapter, he keeps on going about how it's bad luck. He talks about, Cash being a good carpenter, and he mentions something about him falling off of a church. Did y'all see that? If the road wasn't there, then Cash wouldn't want to be a carpenter, and he wouldn't fall off a church. All right, and then he couldn't work for 6 months. All right, and then he and Addie had to slave when there's lots of things that he could have done at home, but he had to get out and start working on that church, okay? And then Darrell, talking me out of him during them, it ain't that I'm afraid of work. I always is fed me and mine and kept a roof above us. It's that they would shorthand me just because he tends to his own business, just because he's got his eyes full of the land all the time. I says to them, he was all right at first with his eyes full of the land because the land laid up and down ways then. It wasn't till that air road came and switched the land around long ways and his eyes still full of the land that they began to threaten me out of him, trying to shorthand me with the law. Okay, so what's going on here? Maybe. Or when they're coming to draft him for the war, all right? Or even something that happened after, we're not sure. But somehow he feels like the road is responsible for whatever has happened to Darrell, okay? And then kind of continuing going, are you sick, Addie? I'm not sick, she said. You lay down and rest, you, I said. I knowed you are not sick. You were just tired. You lay down and rest. I am not sick, she said. I will get up. Lay still and rest, I said. You were just tired. You can get up tomorrow. And she was laying there, well and hale as e'er woman ever were, except for that road. Okay, so he says, I never sent for you, I said. I take you to witness I never sent for you. I know you didn't, Peabody said. I bound that. Where is she? Okay, who is Peabody? He is the doctor. And so Anne says that he didn't send for him. Okay, so Anne says, I didn't send for you. I didn't call for you to come. Why would he not call for him when his wife is just laying there, dying? Why would he not want the doctor to come? Money. Absolutely. Because he would have to pay him. All right? So, and now I got to pay for it. Me, without a tooth in my head. Remember we talked about teeth. Hoping to get ahead enough so I could get my mouth fixed where I could eat God's own victuals as man should. And her all and well as e'er a woman in the land until that day. Got to pay for being put to the need of that $3. Got to pay for the way for them boys to have to go away and earn it. And now I can see, same as second sight, the rain shutting down betwixt us, a coming up that road like a darn man. All right, and so he keeps going on, and he's talking about bad luck. And then here, I want y'all to mark this, but it seems hard that a man in his need could be so flouted by a road.
Wait, so is he complaining that he's having to pay for a doctor for his dying woman?
He is complaining about pretty much everything. He's complaining, but he's blaming it all on the road. All of his complaints that he has about life, he's putting back on this road, okay? Because he is kind of he's almost justifying his laziness through all of this. You know, all of his bad luck is because of this road, not because of anything he has done in his mind. So he's saying, you know, when Cash fell off of the roof of a church and he was hurt and he laid up in bed for 6 months healing, you know, that was because of the road.
So it's like how people say now that like the reason I don't have a job is because like the immigrants took it, even though it's like really
Exactly. It's like justification. Yeah. And he's like, you know, and Addie, she's really not sick, but the road brought the doctor here, so now I got to pay for the doctor, and the boys have to go do this because of that. But he's putting it all back on the road. So the road, he is blaming everything on the road, this inanimate object. All right. And so then Vardaman comes in with the fish. All right. So we're having his version of Vardaman bringing in the fish, whereas we just previously had Toll's version of Vardaman bringing in the fish. And he says he comes around the house, he's bloody as a hog, and he's chopped up this fish with an axe. All right? And he says, I'm pure tired. So he says that the fish was full of blood and guts as a hog. And he says, is Ma sick some more? Like, you know, is she continuing to get worse? And he kind of dodges it and he says, go wash them hands. Okay? So then we're moving on to Darl with chapter 10. And I'm going to go ahead and read this one because it's not that long. All right, Darl. He has been to town this week. The back of his neck is trimmed close with a white line between hair and sunburn like a joint of white bone. He has not once looked back. So Darl is saying that Jewel has been to town to get a haircut this week. Okay. Jewel, I say, back running, tunneled between the two sets of bobbing mule ears. The road vanishes beneath the wagon as though it were a ribbon, and the front axle were a spool. Do you know she's going to die, Jewel? Who's going to die? When?
When he leaves.
While they're gone delivering this load of wood. Okay? It takes 2 people to make you and 1 people to die. That's how the world is going to end. I said to Dewey Dell, you want her to die so you can get to town. Is that it? Why would he say that to her? She wouldn't say what we both knew. The reason you will not say it is, when you say it, even to yourself, you will know it is true. Is that it? But you know it is true now. I can almost tell you the day when you knew it is true. Why won't you say it even to yourself? She will not say it. She just keeps on saying, are you going to tell Pa? Are you going to kill him? You cannot believe it is true because you cannot believe that Dewey Dell Bundren could have such bad luck. Is that it? So what's going on with her? She's pregnant. Yeah. So why does she want to go to town? Doctor. Why? Yeah, because she wants to terminate that pregnancy. All right? So he's saying you want her to die so you can go to town. So Dewey Dell, in effect, gains something from the death of her mother. Do y'all see this? The opportunity to go to town. Because them going to town is a big deal. Are y'all with me? Okay. All right, so that is important. And he's talking about Peabody. He says when Peabody comes, they will have to use the rope. He is puzzle-gutted himself, eating cold greens. With the rope, they will haul him up the path, balloon-like, up the sulfurous air. Okay, so we have another reference to air and sulfur. All right, and that's important. Okay? Why? All right, I want y'all 5 bonus points to figure out why that's important tonight. That's your homework. Jewel, I say, do you know that Addie Bundren is going to die? Addie Bundren is going to die. Why is Darl doing that to him? Why is he asking him that over and over?
Because he thinks he should stay.
Yeah, totally. He's messing with him, you know? Like, he knows that Jewel, you know, wants to be there and that Addie has petted and doted on him. But Darl has kind of maneuvered this to where he took Jewel on this trip to deliver this wood to keep him away from her in her final hours in an effort just to kind of be hateful. All right? So he's asking him repeatedly, Do you know she's going to die? And this indicates what? The fact that he's asking him, do you know she's going to die? What does that indicate? That he knows, that somehow, he knows that she's going to die. Yet he took him anyway. All right? What further details are revealed to the reader about Dewey Dell's secret? Huh? She's pregnant. She is pregnant and she does not want to be. All right, so who is Peabody? He's the doctor. What is his opinion about being summoned by Ann's?
It's too late.
It's too late. He knows that if Ann's has finally called for the doctor, that it's already too late. It's pointless for him to go. That there's nothing he can do. That Ann's is going to wait until the very last possible minute. All right. When Ann's finally sent for me of his own accord, I said, he has wore her out at last. And I said, a darn good thing. And at first I would not go because there might be something I could do, and I would have to haul her back by God. I thought maybe they have the same sort of fool ethics in heaven they have in the medical college, and that it was maybe Vernon Toll sending for me again. Getting me there in the nick of time, as Vernon always does things, getting the most for Ann's money like he does his own. All right? So it's almost like, Vernon is working, for Ann's with, helping him with his wife. But when it got far enough into the day for me to read weather sign, this storm that's coming, I knew it couldn't have been anybody but Ann's that sent. I knew that nobody but a luckless man could ever need a doctor in the face of a cyclone. All right? So big storm is coming, and he's like, and of course, only Ann's would send for a doctor here. Only the Bundrens would need a doctor when there's a cyclone coming, or a tornado. All right? And I want y'all to mark this. And I knew if it had finally occurred to Ann's himself that he needed one, it was already too late. All right? So he knows that if Ann's has finally sent for him, that it's too late. All right? So anyway.
How did he send for him?
Like word to him. Like a message.
Pigeons.
Pigeons, yeah. Probably sent somebody, a neighbor or somebody that says call the doctor. Yeah.
So the Bundrens, they're also poor, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So could the doctor also be worried that he might not be getting paid or might be getting paid late for all the work he's putting in?
I don't think that that's his main issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main issue is that it's too late, I'm going to...
But I'm going to go anyway. Yeah.
But I might have to end up being carrying this heavy wounded back.
Yeah.
And it probably won't do any good in a cyclone right now.
Yeah. He's grumbling, and really, his grumbling is more toward Ann's, all right? And how Ann's is just, lazy and good for nothing, all right? And he mentions that Ann's has not been to town in 12 years. Down here a little further. 12 years. All right, so we have another passage right here that I want you to mark. This is on page 43. The girl is standing by the bed, fanning her. Who is the girl? Dewey Dell. When we enter, she turns her head and looks at us. She has been dead these 10 days. All right, who is that? Addie. Is she really dead these 10 days? No, but she might as well be because she's checked out. She's done. All right. I suppose it's having been a part of Ann's for so long that she cannot even make that change, if change it be. What's the change? Death. From life to death. That it's almost as if, being with Ann's, she's almost even he's rubbed off on her to where she's too lazy to even move into death, you know. This is in his head, though, okay? I can remember how when I was young, I believed death to be a phenomenon of the body. Now I know it to be merely a function of the mind, and that of the minds of the ones who suffer the bereavement. The nihilists say it is the end, the fundamentalists the beginning, when in reality it is no more than a single tenant or family moving out of a tenement or town. Okay, so what does he believe about death?
It's like a state.
Yeah, it's like a state change. It's like a soul, a spirit moving out of a body. That there is, you know, your life just inhabits that body. And then when you die, your life leaves that body. All right? So it's very spiritual. You know, it's like kind of, you know, the spirit leaving the body and ascending. Okay? All right. She looks at us, only her eyes seem to move. Again, eyes. It's like they touch us, not with sight or sense, but like the stream from a hose touches you. Okay? Well, Miss Addie, how are you, sister? All right, so he's checking on her. And then he tells Ansley, he's like, why didn't you send for me sooner? And he's like, it's just, you know, one thing or another. Dewey Dale's taking care of her. And then right here, when you were asking about Peabody a minute ago, Brock, he says, darn the money, I say. Did you ever hear of me worrying a fellow before he was ready to pay? All right, so the doctor would have come earlier. And he says, he ain't begrudging the money, he says. I just kept a-thinking. She's going, is she? All right, and then the darn little tyke is sitting on the step looking smaller than ever in the sulfur-colored light. Okay, remember what I told y'all to look up? I want y'all to look up the sulfur. I want to know what's going on with this from you guys. All right? So, anyway, continues, goes back into the room, all right? Talks about how the doctor came all the way from Jefferson, where they're going. All right, then I leave the room. Beyond the porch, Cassius saw snores again, sleep, steadily into the board. A minute later, she calls his name, her voice harsh and strong. Cash, she says. You, Cash. Who is she? Addie. So, you know, for the first time in all of these days, she's sitting up and she's hollering at him. All right? Huh? All right, so that's interesting. The next chapter, chapter 12, is Darrell. And he's not there. Yeah. So we're going to pick up with chapter 12 tomorrow. Y'all try to keep reading. I know I told y'all to read through 14 last night. Try to read through like 17. If y'all will, try to read through 17. And hopefully the copy machine will be back up tomorrow.